Today on the Star Trek Critic, the Nth Degree, where woke liberals of today will suffer emotional meltdowns when they learn 300 years in the future, a woman is wearing a necklace with a cross on it. The first point is lost because they're still in uniform off-duty. Shout out to Dwight Schultz for acting like he can't act, and he's really good. All this time you thought they were doing Cyrano de Bergerac, but in reality, they were singing songs from Frozen. Now they perform the Who's on First routine. Barclay now plays Do You Dare, and Worf plays along and says, I do dare, and confesses that he's in love with someone. And he doesn't know, but it turns out Beverly is in love with the same man. Meanwhile, in the audience, Deanna says, Data, what are you doing? Data says, that's my hand. And Deanna says, Data, keep your hands to yourself. Until now, I thought he said, I have done better scenes. At the end of the play, Data says, I don't understand the left fielder, and Riker says, that's because this play has nothing to do with the Who's on First routine. This is Picard maneuver number 1, and 6 weeks worth of lessons means he's not that good. And this impromptu therapy session does show Barclay has improved and well enough to ask the question whether this is better than the holodeck, and I'd say it is. Barclay says he feels more comfortable playing somebody else. This isn't foreshadowing for this episode at all now, is it? Deanna says, look at yourself now. Barclay looks at himself in a mirror and he's thinking, that's not me, is it? Barclay's looking around and thinking, this doesn't look like 10 forward at all. I don't know if that was an accident or scripted, but it looks real good. The first point is lost because there's no way Starfleet would leave this telescope unmanned this far out in space where it could be destroyed or sabotaged by an enemy. The plot here would still work if the crew manning the telescope was disabled. As usual, an extra crosses before the turbolift doors open. It looks like Riker's letting out a good fart. Now he stands right behind Picard like that little ass kisser that he is. 1 point lost for a single set of doors on the turbolift. 1 point lost here because you can actually see LeVar Burton's eyes. As usual, Starfleet never follows the teachings of Yoda. Public service announcement, you should never call anyone boy, so -1 point. The probe flashes Bajordi and Barclay, but it's too much for Barclay to handle. This episode has Star Trek's longest cold open of 7 minutes, and we're already at 2.5 here, which means 1 point lost for opening credits more than 6 minutes into the show, and 1 point lost for a captain's log talking down to us like we didn't know what happened before the commercials. Worf says I, number 1. Barclay's jump to becoming a genius is similar to John Travolta's in the movie Phenomenon. What they're all wondering is, why does an extra always walk by when the doors are open? One thing about Wesley being gone, they've been able to make his position a lot more diverse for the show. The probe must be right on top of them if you're too close to use photon torpedoes. Worf says I, number 3. Anaya says I, number 4. 1 point lost. That probe cannot follow you at 8 times the speed of light because it would have to make all those calculations and you'd end up in a different place. Here is a 47 reference. Even in a stressful situation, Geordi uses proper English. 1 point lost here. If Barclay was able to increase the shield's power by 300%, they would use that formula in all of Starfleet forever, but they didn't. Worf says I, number 5, so it's time for a drink. Barclay apologizes for his manliness while Traynor is thinking, oh wow, Barclay is so hot now. So far, about 8 hours have passed. How do you say this word?
It's really incalculable.
A good shot of Barclay's left foot changing directions. Riker stops talking to 2 girls at once just to stick his nose up Barclay's ass, but it turns out he knows nothing about technology. Look quick. Riker and Barclay both sit down without moving their chairs. Geordi gives his solution. Picard says, I don't agree, I want to listen to Barclay instead. Barclay starts his briefing with Picard maneuver number 2. Barclay's first time in the conference room has gone to his head to the point where Picard calls him the second baseman. Barclay makes his move on Beverly and she's thinking, wow, this is so much better than having sex with a ghost. 1 point lost for Barclay still being in uniform off duty. More woke liberals are going to freak out because Barclay performs old-fashioned chivalry by rising when a woman sits down. Barclay says he found a new confidence. Maybe it was from this guy. Deanna is getting prepared. Barclay makes his move, and he's pretty good at it. And Deanna's thinking, damn, I counseled Barclay better than I thought. Again, Barclay demonstrates old-fashioned chivalry by rising for a woman when she leaves. He also has to readjust with Picard maneuver number 6. The next morning, Geordi says, "Where's Barkley?" Trainer says, "I went to his quarters on my way over. I told you she had the hots for him." While Barkley and Einstein argue about the size of our dimensions, Geordi does Picard maneuver number 7. So Geordi is complaining that Barkley and Einstein know more than him. That's what's going on here. Barkley wants to know if they have to ask the left fielder, and Geordi says, "You know you're talking about the doctor, right?" This is Beverly's way of saying, "Damn, you're smart." This is Barkley's way of saying, "Sure as shit I am." Geordi says, "You can't lock a man up for being too smart." Picard says, "Geordi, we've been doing that for centuries. That's called politics." Riker says he was abducted by aliens. Beverly says he had a bee sting. Deanna says, "I like him this way, and in a few nights I think I'm gonna get howling mad Murdocked." The boys are like, "He did what?" Picard says, "As long as he votes like us, he's okay. But if he votes against us, we're gonna throw him in jail." Riker says, "So, did you get Murdocked or not?" And Deanna says, "I'm not telling." The Argus array is having an emotional meltdown. Barkley complains the galaxy's largest mobile computer is too slow and runs off. Geordi says the second baseman just happened. Then he says he is unclear. Is that like unclean? Geordi says, "We are screwed. We need to get our asses out of here." Picard says, "I don't think we're going to pull this one out." If that's what she said, you've got a problem. Worf says, "I number 6. It's amazing how many people are in the hallway when Barkley's running through. Don't any of them have a job? 1 point lost here. If the computer can't keep up with the Argus array, it won't be able to hook up Barkley's brain as quick as it did. As usual, they blame everything on the second baseman. Data says, "We got out of that mess just at the last second like we always do in Star Trek." They're like, "What happened to the computer? It usually sounds like Deanna's mom." However, even hooked up to the computer, Barkley uses bad English. He should say, "It is I, not it's me." So, is Barkley a Cylon hybrid, or is he an actual Borg? Then he says, "You're gonna have to kill me to get me out of here." Geordi's thinking, "I saw this on a space odyssey." Geordi says, "Now we can trash talk Barkley and he'll be even more traumatized than ever." So if all the boys are in the conference room contemplating killing Barkley, does that mean Beverly's in charge? Yes! The woke liberals are gonna freak out now because Picard says Barkley cannot identify as the ship's computer. Picard says, "He didn't vote the way I wanted him to, and I don't care how smart he is, we need to get rid of him." Geordi and Data now talk about Barkley doing his stretching exercises. 1 point is lost for not considering just turning off the holodeck. I know that would kill Barkley, and he probably disabled it anyways, but they didn't talk about it. 1 point lost for Geordi going into the Jeffries tube alone. 1 point lost for Geordi talking to Barkley over the intercom. Barkley's gonna figure this out real quick. Again, they say try, which just means screw Yoda. Barkley says, "I found the single equation to the universe, and it's 42. Geordi says, "No, that's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. In Star Trek, it's 47. Geordi quotes the Pack Lads. Barkley says, "We will explore new worlds and seek out new life and new civilizations." Here is one problem. The galaxy's largest mobile computer is going to keep a backup program of what is going on right now. Deanna says, "Captain, I'll talk to Barkley. I have cleavage. That always works." Deanna acknowledges her self-awareness. Barkley says, "Sorry, Deanna, your cleavage won't work on me this time." And that really pissed off Deanna. She stomped out of there quick. Barkley now has the balls to tell them, "Whatever you're doing out there, you need to stop." What a pompous ass. Worf says, "I number 7. There they go into the big blob that the computer is recording. 1 point lost for Worf not reporting until he gets back to the bridge. They traveled 30,000 light years to see George Peppard. What's up with that? Picard sings his favorite Who song. Picard wants an explanation. The Cytherian says, "I'm here to see Mad Dog Murdoch." 1 point lost for Barkley recovering so fast. I mean, the whole programming probably would have killed him to begin with. So I'm only going to take 1 point for his quick recovery. And the Cytherians explore the galaxy by outsourcing everything and having all of that come to them. According to the captain's log, only about 5 days have passed, so minus 1 point. 1 point is lost for not recording this technology and the shield technology. Even if they could only use it once in a while, it would have come in handy on this day. As with any Star Trek episode, you follow the extras to the main characters. Barkley recovers from his 15 minutes of fame. Barkley doesn't remember how or why. Deanna says why was the left fielder, but how was not a member of the baseball team. Deanna says we still have that walk in the Arboretum. Barkley rises and does Picard maneuver number 5, so it's time for another drink. Barkley says, I love you. Deanna says, I know. Here's the proof. If Barkley can remember the chess moves, then the ship's computer can record increasing the shields by 300% and the space conduit, but they never do it again. Who are the Cypherians? David Coburn has 110 screen credits starting with different strokes and tons of voiceovers. Paige DeYoung also does voiceovers with 80 screen credits. Her first show was Fame. This is Saxon Trainor's second of 60 screen credits. She is also in Sliders and The X-Files. Jim Norton played Einstein and will be back in Season 6 as Einstein. He was also in Babylon 5. And the late K.E. Cooter has 140 screen credits, including The Last Starfighter, V, and he will be back on Deep Space Nine. The Nth Degree, a welcome return to Barkley, gets a score of 87.
Yes!
Thanks for viewing. Be sure to leave comments below, click that like button, the share button, the subscribe button, and we'll see you again next week with the return of Q.